everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. Welcome to PHLY Flyers. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the afternoon. Joining me, as always, is Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat reporter. It is Charlie O'Connor. What's going on today, Chuck?
I guess we are doing What If Wednesday on a Thursday.
You know, it's the beauty of a daily show is that when you don't get to something yesterday, there's always the next day. It's perfect. Yeah. And that's what we're doing. It is What If Thursday. We're going to get to yesterday's hypotheticals because honestly, you can only talk about Ryan Johansen and the CBA so much.
Yeah, we did it 2 days in a row.
We did it for about 2 hours.
And as far as we know, he has not officially had his contract terminated yet.
All right. Is that weird?
It is a little weird, yeah. Yeah.
It's the Flyers, man. Maybe they're just waiting. Maybe they're, I don't know. Anyway.
If they haven't yet done it, I would assume it's because they're doing some sort of negotiating, whether they're talking with Johansson's camp or they're talking with the NHL. I don't know. It's just interesting that they put that out there and then he cleared unconditional waivers. And the thing that really jumped out at me was Elliot Friedman tweeted that he hasn't been terminated yet. We'll see what happens. It was like, all right, well, now is there something else going on here? So we'll see.
Who knows? Maybe they'll trade him for something.
I don't think that is going to happen.
I don't think that's happening either. Anyway.
We can rule that one out.
Yeah, we have some what-ifs coming up. We're going to do the stuff we had planned for yesterday when Ryan Johansson obviously took over the bulk of the show. But I want to start with a couple of other things. The first is this top 20 centers list that the NHL Network put out there. They do this every year with their lists of all the top guys. And hard to argue with this one again, especially. I mean, yeah, we could move some guys out of the top 10, maybe like the back half of the top 10 into the teen range or whatever. But I'm pretty happy with this list, honestly. I think they haven't really been trolling us with the lists this year. I think they're pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it seems fine. You know, maybe Eichel's a little high. I personally don't love JT Miller's game, but I know he had a really good year last year. Bedard seems high, but I get that it's Connor Bedard and the hype is there.
Yeah. No,
I don't think Connor Bedard right now is better than Rope Hintz or Dylan Larkin, but I think he will be.
That's the, if this list came out in a year, it's like, oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. But now it's kind of, hey, here's the new toy. Look at him.
Right.
Moving up the list already.
Right.
But my thing, the list is the list. And I say, summer is for lists, as Kelly writes in the Flyby every day. Mm-hmm. My thing is, not saying that the top 10, all these guys, make their team instant cup contenders. McDavid, sure. Tough to build a team around him that wouldn't be at least a favorite to go to the second round or something.
Well, I mean, in fairness, the Oilers have done that.
Well,
did that for multiple years before they finally got not even a great GM, but a mildly competent GM.
And now, he is now in his prime, putting up 150 points. He's not just the best; he's an all-time great.
Right. True.
But Crosby in his prime right now, I don't think could get his current Penguins team to a conference final.
I don't know. It's possible.
It's possible.
He's really
but
good.
We'd be like, yo, this is one of the great performances.
They would at least be a playoff team.
Yeah, they'd be a playoff team, certainly. But for them to go to a conference final or something, we'd be like, even if they don't get to the final, maybe this is the Conn Smythe.
Might be able to get to round two.
Yeah, but how many teams not represented in the top 10 are legit cup contenders? Because that's my thing. If you look at a best goalies list, a best defenseman list, yeah, there's some great guys on great teams there. The Flyers have this huge hole at 1C, and it's not even 1C. To be a legitimate cup contender, it's real hard to do that without one of these guys. No.
Well, I think Dallas is, and hence is 14.
Dallas is the one that sticks out.
Carolina, well, we'll see how Carolina is now with their defense weaker, but I think they were, and Aho's at 12. I think you need a top 20 guy. I also do think, too, that as much as, and I do think center is obviously a very important position, but I do think we get a little bit too hung up on the idea of every team has to have, every cup contender has to have a number, superstar first-line center and a superstar defenseman and a good goalie. I don't know, maybe just get good players. if Matvei Michkov is one of the 3 best players in the world, and I'm not saying he's going to be, but if he is, then I think they'll be able to handle it if their first line center is like just the 18th best.
Oh yeah, there's other ways to do it.
Yeah.
And like Dallas is the team that sticks out, and I would maybe have Hintz a little higher.
Right.
Like I don't know if he's 14.
Fair.
But yeah, Sebastian Aho at 12. And it's like, yeah, Carolina, but also they're getting to that point of, well, are they cup contenders? Because they're never actually there.
We'll just see. I think the thing for me with Carolina is I want to see how they are this year with the defense, because the defense on paper did get significantly weaker. They lost Brett Pesce. They lost Brady Shea. They replaced them with like Shane Gostisbehere and Sean Walker. I don't know if you're picking up the scraps of the Philadelphia Flyers. That it's a bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see if it pays off for them.
Hey, the Flyers got Ryan Johansson and a first-round pick for those 2 guys.
Those 2 guys?
Yeah.
How does Gostisbehere play into that?
Well, they got nothing for him.
Oh, okay.
So they so the combined return.
I didn't know if there was a trade tree that somehow Gostisbehere was involved in the Sean Walker acquisition.
The combined return is those things.
Okay,
and
fair.
Because it's 0 for Ghost.
Because less than 0. They gave up a second-round pick. But I guess you could say the future considerations maybe were passed along in that deal.
Yeah, it's we're gonna have to trade Ryan Ellis there.
They just paid it forward. They paid for the future considerations.
Yeah. That's the top 20 centers list. It's fine. But it is like to get me to the point of how do we get one of those guys? I'm not saying Rucker McGroarty is one of those guys.
I'm very much not saying that.
But I think it is fair for Flyers fans. Now, if you didn't see it, Pittsburgh just acquired Rucker McGroarty, the 14th overall pick in 2022 from Winnipeg, for their own 14th overall pick from 2023, Braden Yeager.
Yeah.
So it's
the
rare first-round pick for first-round pick, 1-for-1 swap of prospects.
Yeah.
It's a very you don't see this that often, I don't think, and we'll get into that too.
My first thought was that I think Winnipeg did a really good job here because they had a player who apparently was requesting a trade and likely wasn't going to sign with them after feeling like he was mistreated, and they got back a player who was taking the exact same pick and is a year younger. It's basically like a relatively even prospect for prospect trade. I think Winnipeg did a pretty good job here.
I do too. No, and that's the thing is, the focus is obviously going to be on McGroarty. But it's like, this Braden Yeager guy was available as well. And maybe not available until this specific situation, and God knows if the Penguins and Flyers are going to pull off a trade that involves someone
they won't.
Their highest touted prospect.
And also it's not it's not as if the Flyers could just snap their fingers and get Braden Yeager. If you wanted to swap Oliver Bong for Braden Yeager, maybe they would have talked about it. But again, then you're just replacing one prospect with another. And the only reason to do that is shiny new toy. It's he's new, so he must be better.
And that's I'm coming down on this. I want the Flyers to get everything that becomes available because they're not going to, obviously. They haven't. But I want them to be in on these situations, like for Askarov, like for Rucker McGroarty. Those situations, the RFA convo we're going to have later with the guys who are still unsigned. I'm not even saying this was the move the Flyers had to make, and by not making it, they dropped the ball. But I do think until Danny does something to markedly improve the future of this team, which he hasn't done since drafting Mishkov in 2023, it's fair for fans to be how are we getting better? How are we getting the players who make us better? Because I'm not even McGroarty might not be a 1C, that might not be who he's going to be, but they're going to need a 2C too. Maybe that's Jet Luchenko. Who knows?
Maybe it's Morgan Frost.
Maybe it is Morgan Frost if the coach stops hating him. We'll see. It's just if you can make what you have better and don't, until you do, the fans are right to ask, hey, when are we going to get these guys? How are we going to get these guys? These are the ones that have been available thus far. We haven't acquired them.
You are very much taking on the fan perspective of Danny do something. I mean, really, that's what it boils down to, is that, if every move that happens, you're going to say, Danny, why didn't you do this? Then that's just what it's going to be until he does something.
He does have to do something at some point. He has to do. This team is not good enough to win the Stanley Cup. Nowhere close to it. At some point, he has to do something to move in that direction. Until he does, fairly or unfairly, it's okay for fans to be like, so when are we doing something? Because I want to watch a better team than I've been watching.
I guess I don't disagree with that concept in theory. I wrote a column at the end of the offseason making that very point. I guess I just don't think we have to look at every single move that happens in the NHL. This is the same thing that happened in the Hextall tenure. The same thing that happened in the Hextall tenure, where every single time a move was made, there was an uproar on Twitter of, why didn't Hexy do that? Why didn't Hexy do that? Why didn't Hexy do that? And it's like, well, there's individual reasons for every move why he didn't do it. There's individual reasons for every move as to why Briere hasn't done it. This one, there's a very obvious reason. I don't know if you want to get into it now or if you want to wait.
And that's the other side of this. And that's why I'm saying, this isn't. And again, I don't believe. Yes, Rutger McGroarty is the shiny toy. He's at Michigan. He's the captain of Team USA. Just won gold. So it's like, oh, I know this guy,
Right, I've heard of him.
Not only is he a highly thought of prospect, I've seen him play a few games in the World Juniors. I think that comes into it, but he's not probably the dude we're looking for to be that 1C. But he is someone who might make the team better. And while you might bring up the Ron Hextall, yes, it may have gotten ridiculous. Ultimately, Ron Hextall failed miserably.
Fair.
So if we're going to, this happened then, and the fans were right. Because Ron never did shit and got fired for it. So if he wanted to keep his job, he probably should have done something. He got fired because he's an asshole.
And he didn't draft well.
He drafted.
I mean, really, what it boiled down to with Hextall was Hextall didn't make moves because he believed in the players he drafted, and it turned out the players he drafted weren't as good as he thought, or they weren't developed well.
If, like we say all the time, if Provorov and Patrick are Rantanen and Heiskanen, it's a totally different situation.
The Hexy rebuild works.
He's probably still here.
Probably.
But they're not, and he failed, and he didn't make up for those failures by acquiring anybody, and that's the problem. I don't want to wring my hands we got to just make everything about the Flyers. Yes, I want the Flyers to be the best team in the league.
Well, we also do have a daily Flyers
show. It's a daily Flyers show. But I want the Flyers to be the best team in the league. Getting better players than what they currently have is how you do that. He hasn't done that yet.
Okay, well, let me make a clear statement here about the big reason why I do not think.
And that gets to this part.
There are a lot of reasons why you can say why the Flyers didn't do this move. Number one, it's not like Pittsburgh got Rutger McGroarty for nothing. Pittsburgh gave up a quality prospect. And the Flyers are depending upon their quality prospects to pull them out of this. Probably the equivalent of this trade for the Flyers would have been Oliver Bonk. Now, that's great. They would have gotten Rutger McGroarty. They would have no longer had Oliver Bonk. It's not as if they got Rutger McGroarty for a 5th-round pick and it's found money. They had to swap a prospect of similar value. Then it just comes down to, okay, well, which one turns out to be better?
Who do you like better? What do you need more?
Exactly. But it's not as if the Flyers, had they been in on this and had they made a similar offer, it's not like they would have gotten this guy as found money. This would have required them to give up a piece that they view as likely to be part of the future. That's number one. But the big thing, and this is just the reason why I suspect the Flyers were not heavily involved in this, Rutger McGroarty is Cutter Gautier's best friend.
They're not just Team USA teammates.
They're buds.
They're pals.
Yeah, they are legitimate buddies. And after Rutger McGroarty's friend straight up said, I hate you, I'm not going to join your organization. In fact, I'm never going to talk to anyone employed by your organization
I'm ghosting
ever
you
again.
You took me 5th overall and I'm ghosting you.
Sorry.
I bet you he said some things to his friend that I don't like them. And here's why.
I would guess that the Flyers did not think that it was likely. And I would hope at the very least the Flyers checked in. They gave Rutger McGroarty's agent a call and they asked, hey, would the Flyers be a team Rutger McGroarty would be interested in signing with if we were to get it on the bidding? I think it is highly likely that Rutger McGroarty's agent kindly told them to go fuck themselves.
Yeah, no,
very respectfully, but
these guys, the college players, do have this leverage of I'm just staying in college and you're going to lose me for nothing.
Yeah.
So you better trade me.
Yeah.
But any team that acquires me, like Adam Fox years ago, you better be confident you can sign me because I'm only going to end up where I want to end up. Adam Fox only wanted to end up in one place. Yep. He ended up in one place.
Yeah, it worked
eventually.
out real well for him.
Yeah, it worked out really. He's one of the best defensemen in hockey, and he's exactly where he wants to be.
Exactly.
Congratulations, kid. It worked.
Good job, Adam.
Yeah, like you made it work for you. But if he's just like, yeah, go ahead and trade for me, but guess what? You're then going to get pennies on the dollar for me when it turns out I ain't signing there either.
Yeah.
That's the other end of this. Like he's pulling, I told you this right before we went live. I went to Elite Prospects. I was like, let me just make sure he's represented by KO Sports. No,
he's not?
It's CAA.
Okay.
It's not even KO.
Okay.
So we can't even blame this on Overhardt. It's just, he basically pulled a cutter. He was like, no, I ain't.
It was a bit different because McGroarty did reveal why. That his reason was he thinks he should be in the NHL right now. Winnipeg is not sure because I guess they think that they have enough talent up front that they don't need him, which is kind of insane because you're a first round exit team.
They're
what are
a
you actually doing?
Franchise.
They're a weird franchise, man. They're so weird.
Like it's side conversation here. They're a team. It's so hard for them to acquire and keep talent because who the fuck wants to live in Winnipeg?
I don't.
Like people just take that however you want.
I don't.
Like Briz, they don't have parks and everything. But like the fact is, very few players care to stay there.
You're not wrong.
If I was running that team, if I'm Shevladeyov, I'm like, yeah, whatever you want, man. You have to cater. And I get like you can't bend over backwards for everyone. You can't cave in every situation. But here's a player who, if he signs his ELC, can't leave for years. You have some time to wear him down, maybe get him to sign a long-term contract. Like, yeah, we're just going to fuck with you. That doesn't seem like the best. Like the way I was saying, just do whatever Kolosov wants and then maybe, the Flyers will attract other talent because people are going to want to play here at some point.
Sure.
It's been an issue for Winnipeg.
Yeah. Yeah. You would think that when you are a team that struggles to attract and keep guys, that you're not going to do an own goal like it seems as if they did with the Rucker McGroarty situation. That said, I think they did a good job getting Braden Yeager, who's a quality prospect. So it's not like they got killed in this deal. They got another prospect who's, I would say in the consensus is lower ranked than McGroarty, but I don't think it is anywhere close out of the realm of possibility that Yeager ends up being a better NHL player than McGroarty. I don't. I think that Yeager is a quality prospect who is in that same range. Like, one of the reasons why I'm not going crazy about this McGroarty thing is I don't view Rucker McGroarty as a future star. I think he's going to be good. He's going to be a solid player. I think he could be a real good second liner. And as you said, Flyers could use real good second liners. That would help. But I don't look at him and see a guy who's going to be one of your 2 or 3 best players on a cup contender.
Would general manager Charlie O'Connor trade Oliver Bonk for Rucker McGroarty?
It's an interesting question.
I don't know. I've seen the guy play a couple of games.
If I knew that Rucker McGroarty would sign with me,
in the world where it's cool,
I might do it. But that's primarily because while I like Oliver Bonk, I am not as high on Oliver Bonk as I think the Flyers are.
Okay.
I think Oliver Bonk is going to be a perfectly solid second pair defenseman. They think he can be a first pair guy. They are that high on him. I'm not. I see him as a good second pair guy still. I'm more bullish on the upside than I was when he was drafted because he showed more puck skills, particularly on the power play. He's developed the rest of his game. His defense is better. His passing is a bit better. There are elements of his game that he's improved. But I have said in mailbags that if you want like my hot take of like players in the organization, it's that I think there is a strong case to be made that this would be a good time to sell high on Oliver Bonk.
Interesting.
I don't think they will. Yeah. It's just that if you're talking about guys like what's a sell high opportunity, Oliver Bonk might be a sell high opportunity.
They seem to really like him is the thing. It's like
they do. They love
this.
Him.
Seems like him breaking out, and we've always been like, well, is this offense really going to translate? But like him breaking out is, I feel like, very much a validation to them. Like, oh, we were right. Like,
yeah. And to be fair about this, I had similar trepidations about Tyson Forster because I talked to people in the organization a couple of years ago, and they were telling me that Tyson Forrester is going to be great. He's all like, because I would say you don't have blue chip guys in the pipeline. Like, well, we have Tyson Forrester. Like, you think Tyson Forrester is a blue chip player?
I remember you
like,
doing this. Yes,
I don't see that. Well, now maybe he is a blue chip player. So I could very well be wrong in my evaluation of Oliver Bonk. I have reevaluated and pushed up my evaluation of Tyson Forrester's potential ceiling. Maybe after I see Oliver Bonk's rookie year in the NHL, I'll push up my expectation of his potential ceiling. It's certainly possible.
And just like to put a bow on this, and we'll get to the what if stuff and more pressing matters. But like when it's, he's going to be maybe a really good 2C. And it's like, Oliver Bonk might be a pretty good second pair defenseman. Well, you need those two. Like, as much as I think they need centers, I'm not sold on this defense all that much. I like some of the guys, and I think some guys have upside, and we'll see a lot this season. But, like, I think you need Oliver Bonk just as much as you need Rucker McGroarty. Like, it's one's going to end up being better than the other, but I have no idea who.
It just comes down to what hole you want to fill.
Yeah. Anyway, we now will take a quick second before we get to the What If Thursday stuff. We will take a quick moment to hear from Charlie O'Connor.
Oh,
that's right.
It's me. Well, we've talked a bit in the past about BetParx Casino. I want to tell you a little bit about BetParx Sportsbook, the online portion of the BetParx experience. BetParx has your seat at the table with a live dealer for all your favorite classic casino games right on your phone and right now. Play live baccarat, live roulette, live blackjack with a live dealer. Plus, play hundreds of exciting online slots. So I am proud to exclusively recommend BetParx. It's the only online casino and sports betting app I use myself. Summer is here, so if you're at the beach, on the boat, the boardwalk, the Poconos, the campground, the lake, or even your backyard pool, William, make your downtime fun time. BetParx is also a proud official betting operator of the PGA Tour. And then we get to the BetParx Sportsbook app. Lots of ways to bet on PGA golf. I'm personally not a big golf guy, but I gather that betting on golf is a big thing now. That's something a lot of people do. And BetParx is a great place to do it if you are one of those people. You bet players, matches, top finishers, and more. You can also do it while you're watching Philadelphia Phillies baseball, soccer, women's tennis. So download the BetParx app and enjoy all the action and excitement from the casino right at your fingertips. Odds, bets, slots, games right in your pocket. And a great offer for new users. New users download the BetParx online casino and sportsbook app right now and get up to $1,000 casino bonus back if you're down in the first 24 hours. Casino bonus must be wagered. BetParx.com for details. You must be 21 or older in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, Ohio, or Michigan. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. You love to play? You love to win? You bet. BetParx.
Now it's time for TrueMark. That's right, TrueMark. This is fun, man. Like, as much as I love telling you about all the services TrueMark provides, that personalized service, that great community feeling you get when you walk in one of TrueMark's dozens of branches in the area, I'd much rather tell you about a pickleball tournament. You know, like, this is right up my alley.
Right up your alley.
This is a fun thing here. TrueMark Financial Care Foundation is hosting a charity pickleball event to raise money for financial education in our local communities. I tell you all the time about the good that TrueMark does and credit unions do throughout their communities and what they want to do for the people actually living in the areas they work. This is one of those things. Financial literacy. That sounds pretty important, and TrueMark is getting behind it with this event. For those of you who are at the PHLY golf outing, you might remember our friends from TrueMark, and this is to benefit their foundation charity. The event is September 7th at the Upper Dublin Sports Center in Ambler, PA. It's from 1:30 to 5:30 p.m. It's a round-robin tournament. We'll have a certified pickleball pro on site to overview the game for anyone who's never played before, and you don't need prior experience to sign up. Paddles and balls will be available for use for free. Cost to play is $50 to benefit the charity. All players get a swag bag from TrueMark and PHLY, so you come away with something too. Not too bad. If you want to get your company involved in a sponsorship and have your logo on display at the event, they're selling a variety of sponsorships, $200 to $1,000 anywhere in there, whatever you're looking to spend. They'll make it work for you. And even if you don't want to play pickleball, you can still support the event. There's going to be food and beer trucks on site, and a percentage of those proceeds will go to the charity as well. There's going to be music, cornhole, other lawn games, raffle, other prizes. So even if you don't want to play, there's going to be a fun time for all. I'll be there playing, hanging out. There's going to be a lot live broadcast from the event. Come spend Saturday playing pickleball for a good cause, or just eating and drinking for a good cause while we watch others play. And the best part, as a PHLY fan, you get 10% off on registration. Just register at truemark.com/PHLY pickleball. All right. Let's get to the what if portion of today's show, Charlie.
One day late, but we got there.
Yeah, it's great when the Flyers do stuff, and that's, we had a few things planned for today, and then suddenly the Penguins make a trade. Thank you, NHL. The weather in Canada must be shit. That's all I can gather.
The amount of stuff that's been going down this week in the NHL, kind of crazy.
The weather
middle of August,
or it's just like everyone's just woken up from their hangovers and been like, shit, I haven't been to work in like 2 weeks. Let's do stuff to make it look like I've been working.
We are reaching the deadline portion of the summer.
Yeah.
There's always a thing of deadline, spare action. Winnipeg needed to do something with Rucker McGroarty because they knew he wasn't going to sign with them. It's getting to that time where he would have had to go to school. So maybe it's just we're starting to get to the point where these teams are like, oh, God, although if we had any outstanding business left, we have to deal with it now.
So it's being dealt with. So thank you once again, NHL, for coming through with us so we have some content for today. But the hypotheticals, the typical What If Wednesday we're doing today. And the first one I've been meaning to ask Charlie about because every time it even gets brushed past, he's like, God damn it, I don't care. So I'm very excited. What if, Charlie, for our first hypothetical of the day, the Flyers were interested in Peyton Krebs. 17th overall pick in 2019 by Vegas. He's traded to Buffalo in the Eichel deal.
Right.
He's going to be 24 in January. 4 goals, 17 points in 80 games last year. 20 goals, 66 points in 215 career games. He's one of these unsigned RFAs we've been talking about. Obviously, there's a difference between the St. Louis Edmonton situation with the offer sheet, or acquiring those guys in some way. I know you don't want to just talk about offer sheets, but like those are players.
Talking about offer sheets.
Holloway and Broberg are highly touted prospects potentially who couldn't break through on a win now team, and it's like it's not Edmonton's job to develop you at the NHL level, trying to win the best player in the world a cup right now. This guy hasn't been able to break out in Buffalo, where opportunities abound. So maybe he's just not that good. But what if the Flyers were interested in Krebs?
Well, so this really all just stems from, and this is never something that I've heard. I have never had a conversation with a Flyers person that has like voluntarily brought up the name Peyton Krebs. But the person who has been on this from really dating back to 2019 is Anthony Sanfilippo. Anthony Sanfilippo reported before the 2019 draft that the Flyers scouts like Peyton Krebs. Now, that was the draft. The Flyers ultimately took Cam York. Peyton Krebs was taken a few picks later. And then generally speaking, I'm not saying that Anthony is the only one, but I feel like he's probably the driver. Whenever conversations pop up or rumors pop up about the Flyers and talks with Buffalo or exploring things with Buffalo, ASF tends to bring up the Flyers have liked Krebs for a long time. Maybe they go for him. I have never heard that they love Peyton Krebs. That said, Anthony breaks news. So it's very possible that they have liked him for a long time. The reason why I'm just not that into it is like he's 24, right? And he's never been good. I don't know. He's just, to me, he's a very underwhelming player. Now, is it possible the Flyers could unearth something that has yet to be discovered in him at the NHL level? The difference to me between Krebs and Owen Tippett is, and this is, again, my personal bias, I always really liked Owen Tippett's skill set. When I've been dating back to the 2017 draft, I remember watching tape of him being like, man, this guy's got a hell of a freaking shot, and he's a damn good skater, and he's big. That draft, the 2019 draft with Peyton Krebs, I was just like, hey, he's fine. Like, okay, he's kind of one of those, like, okay at everything, not really good at anything types of guys. He plays with a bit of an edge, so that's cool. Maybe the Flyers will dig that. But to me, he was like a whatever guy, and he's turned into a whatever NHL player. So there's nothing about Peyton Krebs that gets me excited. Like zero things. His underlying numbers at the NHL level so far have stunk. He's never scored much at the NHL level.
No.
As you said, he hasn't been able to break through on Buffalo, a team where there is opportunity everywhere because they ain't that good. I just don't view Peyton Krebs as anything special. If they took a shot at him, sure. Like, at least, like, for example, compare him to Ryan Poehling. At the very least, I could look at Ryan Poehling going into last season and be like, he's a real good skater. And you know what? Can always use real good skaters and see if he can make something out of them. There is nothing about Peyton Krebs' game that makes him be like, man, I really want to see what that guy has. To me, he's just a guy. Maybe I'm wrong, but to me, he's just a guy.
He certainly didn't score a hat trick in his debut.
Sure didn't. He did not do that.
He only had 4 goals all of last year. Now, that's the thing is, like, this guy specifically, I feel like there's been some conversation about for a few years, like you said, but man, it's not as if he's really blocked, from doing something and from scoring more than 4 goals in a season with Buffalo.
This to me is a guy where I don't see the point of trading for him. Like, wait until Buffalo eventually gives up on him, doesn't tender him a contract, and then you can do what you did with Poehling. That's the path. That's the path he's going down right now because he hasn't been good.
And Buffalo, like, they like to sign these guys early. We've seen it. They still haven't signed Krebs. It's very possible that he is going down that path, maybe sooner than later. Like, he might be acquirable for free at some point soon. But yeah, I think he's the name on the unsigned RFA list that the Flyers have had some linkage to in the past.
He's been linked to the Flyers before. I thought Krebs made some sense. Like, if the Flyers had, because we talked about this, we talked about Buffalo and Ottawa were the 2 teams we brought up about, maybe there's a trade to be made because those 2 teams both look like teams that are looking to do something stupid this summer. Buffalo, this is something I have heard that they had in the past, both them and Ottawa for that matter, at times had interest in Scott Laughton. And my thought process was, hey, you know what? If you can work out a deal with Buffalo to send them Scott Laughton, if you decided that you're willing to do that, maybe Krebs is in that deal. Now, the idea of Krebs being the centerpiece, I didn't like that because I don't think he's good enough to be the centerpiece of a deal trading Scott Laughton, personally. That's just my view. But if it's like a 2nd-round pick and Peyton Krebs for Scott Laughton, I could have lived with that.
Yeah.
And then because then suddenly a spot opens up. I mean, Scott Laughton is probably going to play a bottom 6 center role for this team. Suddenly, if you trade Scott Laughton, there's Peyton Krebs' spot. Now you have a spot to evaluate Peyton Krebs and see what he is. With Scott Laughton still on this team, like their roster's pretty full.
That's the other part of this is they do have to, in all likelihood, it is the Flyers, so who the hell knows? But in all likelihood, the roster right now and what we think it is what it's going to be on opening night.
Yeah, especially now that they're kind of in limbo with this cap situation due to the Johansson thing.
However, what if this is part of something? What if? All right, we have this $4 million. We're in limbo with it, so we can't use it. But what if we just LTIR Ryan Else? Suddenly we can use some space, and there's going to be a settlement. We'll figure that part out, and we'll like. What if they go after a Thomas Harley, a Mo Snider, one of these unsigned RFAs who are very good? Like, there are some guys.
You are just always looking.
There are some guys who it makes sense to go after. When I hear St. Louis's GM saying I would send an offer sheet on a team run by my mother if I had to, if I thought it was going to make my team better, I wonder why everyone doesn't have this mentality. It's a tool in the CBA that is to be used. And honestly, it wasn't until Brian Burke threw a fucking fit about it that everyone was, oh, you just don't do this amongst gentlemen. We're not gentlemen. We're fucking hockey players. Like, what are we doing here? There's bare-fisted fighting on the ice. You get a 5-minute Gatorade break.
Yeah, but we're all buddies when we're off the ice in the boardroom.
Upstairs is
in the boardroom.
Yeah, we're dapping each other up upstairs. This is a family, man. We don't do this to each other. Like, it's something that you can do. They could do it if they wanted.
Well, but the thing you always leave out when it comes to offer sheets is that
they have to sign.
It takes a player willing to sign it.
I know.
There's no indication that Thomas Harley wants to leave Dallas. There's no indication that Mo Snider wants to leave Detroit.
A big bag of money. a big bag of money would change their feeling
I'm
about
imagining you being Les Grossman in Tropic Thunder. Tom Cruise is like, oh, a jet and lots of money.
G4, baby.
G4.
No, it's just like, yes, exactly. That's how you change their minds. Like, is Philip Broberg worth what they gave to him? Would he probably rather play for a cup contender than be in the Midwest for a middling team? Yeah, I bet.
I got news for you. Flyers are a middling team too.
And that's how you attract them, by paying them a whole bunch of money. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
Like, if you think the guy if you think he has the upside to one day be worth it, give it to him now. That's, you'll save money in the long term. Says, oh yeah, well when he hits UFA, he's getting overpaid, because that's what UFAs get, is overpaid. Like, I know it's not going to happen. It just fucking infuriates me that it won't, and that there's no chance. And like half the league is looking at St. Louis right now like, you snakes. You signed a player who was available to be signed. Like, why is that bad?
I agree. I do not think that there should be peer pressure to not do offer sheets. I think that concept is very stupid.
It's just, there's so many. I can find these guys. Jeremy Swayman, Lucas Raymond, Beniers has signed. Mo Seider, Cole Perfetti, Sillinger is signed.
And Perfetti's interesting to me because
that's the interesting one.
It's clear that Winnipeg is not sure what they have in Cole Perfetti.
Yes. And they are, like I said a minute ago, delusional.
Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Just like, oh yeah, we're good. Like, if Connor Hellebuck wins the Vezina, which always on the table.
Yeah, he's real good.
But if he wins the Vezina, or is a Vezina finalist, you could win your division. Mm-hmm. That's it.
That's your ceiling.
That's it. Like, once you get into the playoffs, yeah, I guess he could steal you 4 series. It's unlikely, though.
In fairness, though, and again, we talked about this with Nashville. Nashville is less focused on winning a cup and more focused on filling the building.
They have to stay in business.
Winnipeg is struggling to fill the building now, and they're a team in Winnipeg.
Like, them getting Scheifele and Hellebuck to resign was huge.
Yeah.
Like, the jerseys they get to sell because of that makes it worth it.
They can't afford to have 4 years of being bad.
No, their owner just came out and said, like, hey, we need you to come out or it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And like, it's happened once. This isn't hypothetical.
It has happened before.
This isn't hypothetical. It ain't What If Wednesday for them. Like, it happened, and it will again.
Yeah.
We just saw another team move who was, like, the NHL was hell-bent on making that work.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yeah, the team that got Winnipeg.
Yeah, they never wanted Winnipeg to begin with. Like,
that was the old Winnipeg franchise.
That was a market that the NHL didn't want. It was just like, they keep asking. All right, trying to make it work this time. They can't afford to not do it. So I get it. But they are delusional in thinking like, oh, yeah, we're going to go to a West final. And then what? Losing 5? Yeah. Like, you're not. But the fact that they can't keep these guys like McGroarty, like, I don't know, just like develop them and play them. Yeah,
put them in the NHL.
Cole Perfetti, like, getting scratched in the playoffs. Like, what good does this do you?
Yeah.
Like, maybe there is something there.
Yeah, like, are your third and fourth liners really that good?
Yeah.
Are they?
It's unlikely. No one's are. Exactly. Like, unless you're one of the best teams. Yeah. But like, I do think so that if they were anyone on this list, do you think Perfetti? I know it's a 0 to 5%. So Perfetti is the 5% chance that they could maybe make something happen.
He's the one guy.
Hypothetically, it might be a fit.
He's the one guy who I would think could be convinced to sign an offer sheet. Now, the Flyers, I don't know if they're going to be the team that does it, especially now, as I said, they are now in cap limbo because they have this contract termination thing tying them up. We'll see how that plays out. So I don't think the Flyers will do it. But, like, we didn't really hear anything about Holloway being annoyed, but there were rumblings that Philip Broberg was like, hey, I'm, like, stuck in the AHL. I'm a former, top 15 pick. I'm ready. What the hell, guys? He was going to be predisposed towards listening on an offer sheet in a way that, Thomas Hardy, who is a top 4 defenseman on a cup contender, probably it's going to take a lot more to convince him to say, yeah, I don't want to be a star anymore.
In a tax-free state.
In a tax-free state.
It's always important to remember. No, yeah, I do feel like it has to be. And we were getting questions about Broberg like January, February, leading up to the deadline. It was like, hey, what think maybe that's someone the Flyers could pry loose because they're not playing him. He doesn't seem all that happy with being in the AHL, hasn't stuck. And like I said, Oilers are in this win now. Like, we need you to contribute positively, or
sense.
we need someone else. Like, the Flyers are in more of a situation like, okay, let's find out. But ultimately, he ends up in St. Louis. I just think, like, there's someone out there that the Flyers could convince. Like, hey, man, you know what we have? No centers. You would be our 1C immediately. You'd play with Matvei Michkov. It would be fun for everybody. Someone would want that opportunity.
You have really reached the point of the summer where you are just we've had a week where we've had 2 big news stories on Monday and Tuesday, and Bill is still just starved for more.
Getting rid of Ryan Johansen, who is never going to be here, doesn't make the team better.
Okay.
Like, that's the thing. I want the team, and not for this year. I don't care if they make the playoffs. Honestly, if the goalies stink and they get a top 5 pick, that's probably the best thing for this team. But like, I want the future of this team, 2026-ish forward, to somehow be brighter than it is right now. Adding young players who might have the potential to be very good is how you do that. These are young players who are available. They are unsigned RFAs, or they're disgruntled dudes, like whatever it is. These are the, like, you wrote that article in the beginning of the offseason, or like right after free agency and all that, the missed opportunity. I'm not saying the Flyers are fucking up. I'm just saying they're going to have to do something at some point. This is one of those opportunities to do things. Whether you do or not, that's up to you. But until you do something, I'm going to say you're not doing anything. Like, that's it.
Okay. And you're going to point it out every time something happens.
Until they do. He has to make the team better at some point. He has not yet. I'm not saying he should be fired. I'm just saying until he does something, he hasn't. Okay. Like, the team has to get better. Okay. Otherwise, it's just what we are.
Well, or the players on the team get better.
Yes, that is a possibility for some of these dudes. Others who are like 24, 25, 26, they are what they are. Okay. Maybe Tyson Forster scores 45 goals this year, and it's like, oh, shit, he's 2 levels better than I thought he was. That would be awesome. I'm not banking on that, and if Danny Briere is, he's living in a fantasy land. Okay. That's all.
Okay.
What's my next read? I don't even remember what it is. It's Rite Aid. Rite Aid fall allergy season. Oh, man. Yeah, I've been telling you all week. And honestly, it's the perfect week to tell you. My allergies are killing me today. Getting out of my car, my eyes immediately start watering and everything. I am a fall allergy sufferer, and they begin as early as right now in August, can last into November. We've been over the culprits, what causes the fall allergies. It's ragweed and mold, other plants like sagebrush, tumbleweed, plus dust mites, and your pets. Even your adorable, awesome pets might be causing you some allergies as well. And there's some steps you can take to maybe alleviate your symptoms. You can first sign up to Rite Aid rewards emails at riteaid.com/rewards to receive pollen alerts for your area. When the pollen's high, stay inside, man. Run that air conditioner. Do whatever you have to do to avoid having the allergy attacks that may befall you this time of year. And use a dehumidifier in your house. Dust mites and mold thrive in humid environments. A dehumidifier helps take the moisture out of the air so that these allergens can't grow. And shower frequently, not just for your allergies, but for the people around you. You should be showering frequently. Like I said, keep your windows closed, run that AC, and wear a protective mask when gardening. I know I've been doing some yard work last couple of weeks, kind of get ready for fall, backyard barbecue stuff for football season. I like to be outside in the fall more than the summer, but when you're getting the yard ready, you're going to be dealing with some allergens. Wear that mask, wear some gloves. If that's not enough relief, try some over-the-counter options available at your local Rite Aid, like a nasal rinse, antihistamines, and nasal corticosteroids. If you have still not enough relief, if you have questions of any kind, you can ask a Rite Aid pharmacist if a different type of allergy medication might be necessary, and you can always ask your Rite Aid pharmacist for recommendations on ways to get relief during allergy season. Rite Aid, go there. I had nothing.
Go to Rite Aid.
And this is one for me today, Charlie. Maybe I just need to chill. That could be.
Perhaps you do.
Maybe I just need to take it easy on Danny and say he's going to figure it out. He's got a master plan, and I just need to let it unfold. But it's no wonder we're as worked up as we are. Just look around. Work, social media, life in general. We're all a little bit worked up, and Coors Light celebrates rising above and choosing a chill mindset. And listen, this team specifically, I know they drive me nuts. I'm here every day basically using this show as my own therapy to get through following Philadelphia sports in general. We've been doing this a long time. I'm not getting any less fired up, honestly. And that's why sometimes I need to chill, and there's no better way to chill than with an ice-cold Coors Light. So whether you're freaking out about offer sheets, the CBA, some agent who's screwing your favorite team, you need to find the Blue Mountains in your fridge and enjoy a beer as cold as the Rockies, because when everything surrounding your favorite hockey team is freaking ridiculous, sometimes you just gotta chill. Make the most out of the times you choose to chill. Choose Coors Light. Get Coors Light delivered straight to your door with Instacart by going to CoorsLight.com/PHLY hockey. Celebrate responsibly. Coors Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. All right, Charlie, this is a more fun one that won't annoy you as much.
Okay.
Maybe it will, but
everything annoys me
in a different way. What if Nolan Patrick was 4 days younger? Now, if Nolan Patrick was a mere 4 days younger, he would have been draft eligible in 2016, not 2017, when the Flyers moved from 13 to 2 in the lottery and ultimately selected the Brandon Wheat King. What if he was 4 days younger, Charlie? My simple answer to this: he goes in 2016, now the top of the draft. He sure probably goes 1, and then you have, the 3 studs go after that. My simple answer: Flyers wouldn't have won that lottery. They'd probably stick at 13. Maybe the Rangers win it and get one of Miro, Makar, or Pettersson.
So basically, your view is that everything always happens.
You're the one who's convinced me that they're cursed.
No, I'm not convinced they're cursed. I'm convinced the Wells Fargo name is cursed.
That's fair. Okay.
That's what I'm convinced of.
All right.
So your view is basically that everything would have found some way to go wrong because it's the Flyers.
Or let's say they win the lottery, which would not have happened if there was anything but a bust at number 2 where they were going to draft. But let's say they still win the lottery. I believe they select Owen Tippett at number 2.
No, I mean, based on what we know about the scouts' preferences, I do think if they would have been at number 2 and Nolan Patrick is taken, I actually asked this question to a couple of scouts way back, like years ago, of where would Nolan Patrick have been taken in 2016? This was, I think, prior to the 2017 draft. It was like, where would he have been taken in 2016 had he been eligible? And I was told top 10. So he probably goes in the top 10 in 2016. He sure goes number 1, most likely. And given what we know about the Flyers scouts' preferences, that they didn't even like Patrick at 2, the Flyers probably take Miro Heiskanen if they win that lottery in this world. Because again, butterfly effect, maybe the presence of Nolan Patrick in the NHL in 2016, 2017 means that the lottery ball bounces a little bit differently and they lose it. But if we assume the Flyers still win the lottery and jump from, 13 to 2, I think they take Miro Heiskanen, and I think the rest of the Hextall tenure goes significantly differently. Yeah,
I have no idea if you have an answer for this question. Do you know how much they liked Nico?
They would have taken.
If
Nico.
Patrick had gone 1, they would have taken Nico at 2.
They would have taken Nico.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they liked Nico.
But listen. As much as we constantly do the revisionist history with 2017. This is what consensus was. Now, it's not the general manager's job to do what's consensus.
True.
Like with Jet Luchenko, hey, if you're proven right, Danny, congratulations. You're a genius. It's not your job to do consensus. It's your job to be right.
To be right, exactly.
Maybe you should have gone a different way. But the consensus was like, hey, it's, Nolan Patrick's draft. Oh, shit.
He's a 2.
Nico is on par. It's going to kind of just be whoever wins the lottery's preference.
Right.
It's like, it's Nico. And then 3, 4, 5, I do remember getting like mailbag questions on BSH about Pettersson.
Yeah.
I never once heard anyone.
Stat people really like Pettersson.
I never once heard anyone talk about Makar or Miro.
I think that from what I had heard, the Devils, and this is dating back to 2017, the Devils seriously considered taking Makar. They really liked Makar.
Oh, thank God. Jesus.
They ultimately went with Hischier. But it was, if I remember correctly, I think think it was like 2 days before the draft, Corey Proman posted a mock draft that had Makar going 1. And he has good sources, which tells me that like
it was a conversation.
Somebody in the Devils organization was like told Corey, we are seriously considering taking Makar.
If that happens, it's What If Wednesday on Thursday. If that happens and Nico and Patrick are there, it's Patrick, right? Because it's Hextall.
Ooh, good question. Well, I don't know though, because the big thing for Hextall, I think, just as much as the Brandon Weekings connection, was we need a center. It was that, because that was back in the day of the Flyers had all of the defensemen, you know, that classic picture of, you know, Provorov and Gostisbehere and Shanheim and everybody, and Moran and Haig. And obviously that worked out great. But the idea was we already have all of our young defensemen. We need a center. We need a center badly.
Yeah.
I think it is legitimately possible they would go with Hischier over Patrick, especially given the injury concerns.
Yeah, I hope that's the case. I just wonder, like, how dug in Hextall was on this is my guy.
I think it would have been a compromise, because if you believe the scuttlebutt that the scouts were not sold on Patrick and Hextall really wanted a center, suddenly it would have been, well, we can get a center and it's not the guy you guys aren't super high on. And we go with Hischier, everybody's happy.
All right. I can live with that.
Yeah.
But in all reality, in reality of this hypothetical world, the Flyers draft at 13, and they take one of the defensemen drafted between 14 and 18.
Who were taken around that range?
I just had it open and lost it. It's no one. There's some.
I mean,
guys.
The funny part about it for me is that the guy who actually did go 13 was Nick Suzuki. Be a hell of a lot better of a pick than Nolan Patrick.
Yeah, if I take Patrick out of the whatever it was, I was like, so everyone gets bumped up a spot. So it was Nick Suzuki would go 12, but whatever. It's the butterfly effect. It's hard to keep track of. It is a fun conversation.
Oh yeah,
though.
yeah. Okay, so yeah, the 3 defensemen. Oh geez, number 14 was Cal Foote. God, yikes. He was one of the Carter Hart. That thing. Yeah. And then Brandstrom, who was in the Carlson deal, the Mark Stone deal. Right. That trade. So because he ended up with Ottawa, and then Juuso Valimaki, who has not turned into anything. Timothy Liljegren, who's had some time in the NHL for the Leafs. I really hope if they would have stayed at 13, they would have taken Nick Suzuki. Let's put it that way.
And like to not
or Robert Thomas, that'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be cool. And however, because we throw Ron Hextall under the bus all the time, I'm wrong all the time too. I wanted Isaac Ratcliffe when they were drafting at 13. I would have been dead wrong because it was a bad pick in the second round. So it would have been real bad at 13. The draft is a crapshoot. It's your job to be right, but it's real freaking hard. All right, Charlie, this is a fun one. I mean, just because it touches so many things of life. What if COVID never happened? Now, so many.
Okay. This is one though specifically for the Flyers.
Yeah,
I think about this a lot. I really do, because this was the pivot point of the Fletcher tenure. Was the fact that the Flyers are steamrolling everyone.
It was working.
The vibes were through the roof good. Everyone loved Kevin Hayes. He was the Joker. He had a beer named after him in the city. The freaking, I wrote an article like 3 weeks before about the fact that DJ was playing the Wonder Years at games. He was playing new school pop punk.
Oh, that's
the
right.
Menzingers.
They got Reed Streets that year.
Yeah, they got Reed Streets to be DJ. They were turning into a thing where late in third periods, they were playing Came Out Swinging to celebrate wins. The vibes were incredible. The Flyers were like looking like they might kind of be a team of destiny. And then the world shuts down. And they never got the mojo back.
They had, I think they were a point or two back of the division. They had a game with Washington coming up. It was like, if they win that game, they are going to be leading the division. Yeah. And that game was then canceled. And so was the rest of that regular season. And
so was really the rest of that year. Like just, I'm not talking about hockey. I'm talking about
world.
The world.
Yeah.
The world, the year was canceled.
And what kills me, though, is they came back and won that round robin. Yeah. Like, they were technically the 1 seed in the East going into the playoffs because they went 3-0.
Jake Voracek said, I believe it was, I don't know if it was Nasty Knuckles or if it was the interview he did with the Chris Mayer group, the Mayer Media group he did. He basically said that Alain Vigneault tightened up the team after, like, basically, didn't like overhaul their style of play, but change some of the emphases, I guess is the right way to say it, going into that Montreal series. And it just resulted in the Flyers not playing the way that they played both in that regular season when they got rolling, and then even in the round robin when they were playing loose, they were playing free. And Voracek believes that the coach screwed up. And I do think that's a big part of this too, is that, well, you can say, what if no COVID, the vibes. We never got the Alain Vigneault that you had in the first, 69 games of the 2017-2018 season. That Alain Vigneault never came back from COVID. And I had heard, and it just became obvious that, like, he didn't want to be part of, like, what essentially was fake hockey. Like, he wasn't able to coach the way he wanted to coach with the kind of restrictions and social distancing and everything. It just seemed like kind of the joy got sucked out of it for Vigneault after COVID. And he went from being a legitimately good coach of the Flyers during that first year to being a bad coach who lost his team within a season. Like, he lost the room by the end of the 2020-2021 season. Fletcher decided that it wasn't a permanent thing, that he would come back the next year refreshed, and if he just got a defense that could execute his system, that everything would be fine. And then within a month, the team had turned on him again, and then they had to fire Vigneault. If there's no COVID, does Vigneault continue to keep his mojo? He might. It's very possible.
And just like looking at that team from that year, through 69 games when the regular season got called, they had 6 guys with 40 or more points. Last year, through an 82-game season, now a lot of dudes got hurt and everything, 5 total 40-plus point players. Like, that team was just cooking. Matt Niskanen, like, career resurgence.
I don't think Niskanen retires.
Yeah, that's the other,
if COVID doesn't happen, I don't think Niskanen retires. I think you get one more year out of Niskanen.
That's so many little things. Like, man, Matt Niskanen, great partner for Ivan Provorov, great veteran addition to the room. He's just like, this ain't that fun. I'm good. I'm out. See ya. Like, you get at least another year of him. Yeah. Like, so many little things along the way. It's, like, we can say for any aspect of life, what if COVID never happened? But, like, the hockey team specifically, you look at the way things were going, and it was like, holy shit, they are building towards being the hot team going into the playoffs.
I think that, and I almost don't want to say there's a certainty because I haven't evaluated every single team, but I feel like I can say with relative confidence that no team got hurt by COVID more than the Philadelphia Flyers. Like, no team's organizational trajectory got hurt more by the COVID-19 pandemic than the Philadelphia Flyers. The only team I could think of that has even close to the same case, and it's not there, but they at least have a case, is Toronto, because they built their entire cap structure under the assumption that the cap was going to keep going up. And that's why they signed all their guys to big-ass contracts, and then it stagnated for 4 years.
Before we wrap up today, I want to thank all of our diehards, all the PHLY diehards, and all you diehards across the All-City Network. We could not do what we do here at PHLY without our diehards. And guess what, Charlie? What's still get to save one what if for next week.
Oh, cool.
All right. Let's hit the super chats before we get out of here on this What If Thursday.
No
Zero super chats.
All right.
Hot damn. What a day.
Yeah, the COVID thing, I do think about that a lot with the Flyers because it in so many ways, it changed the trajectory of this team because this team was on an upward trajectory. If COVID doesn't happen, if Vigneault keeps his mojo, I don't think those next 2 seasons are disasters. I think that there's a good chance that Claude Giroux is still on this team because they don't fall apart and then they don't have to trade him because he wanted to stay. And they get another year out of Niskanen. Maybe Provorov doesn't fall off a cliff. Like, there are so many. If Vigneault doesn't go bonkers, then maybe you don't have to trade Voracek and Ghost because they don't clash in a serious way that season. I think that if COVID doesn't happen, the Fletcher tenure isn't viewed as a disaster. There are a lot of things because I'm not saying Chuck did a good job. Chuck had a lot of things that went against him, and a lot of the things that went against him were whether a direct result or a tangential result of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The 2019 offseason was a success, at least for that year. Like we can, that Hayes contract didn't age, all that.
4-12 that year.
But it was working. Yeah. It was working fine. And
great on the penalty kill.
Yeah.
He was kind of in a way, he was an expensive glue guy, but he was kind of a glue guy. I remember I wrote an article that summer basically being like, he's not their MVP, but he might be their most important player.
Yeah. It was that season itself, bummer that they didn't get to play that out the way it was going. But yeah, organizational trajectory just absolutely destroyed them.
Yeah.
All right, we do have one super chat before we get out of here. I see Will Wadsworth asks, I'll do the only super chat. I'm glad TK is okay after the house fire. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. It looks like the other night his house caught fire, but no one was home. Just hope everything's great because damn, that sucks, man. That sucks.
Yeah.
All right. That is all the time we have for you on PHLY Flyers today. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, got to hit that subscribe button. Follow us right here on YouTube. Set those reminders so you never miss a live show. We'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock with F Around Friday. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PHLY_Flyers and follow the podcast wherever you get those. Just search PHLY Flyers. My name's Bill Matz. That's Charlie O'Connor. Until tomorrow, you stay loose and sexy, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.